It's another Monday. It's another roll to roll. I'm Benj.
I'm Chase.
I'm Dave.
And today we're going to start getting racist. We're going to start talking about the basic races in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Today we're going to do a quick introduction to dwarves.
The heartiest of dwarves.
So what they've done this time around, thematically, a little different. They've talked about how some races are more common than other races, and that may have been true in previous worlds of Dungeons & Dragons, in previous universes, but it wasn't really something that they talked about. They didn't say, oh, well, there aren't really a lot of half-orcs because they're awful. And humans are, they usually talk about humans are everywhere, and then there are other things. But that doesn't mean anything for you as a player. Anybody can play any race. Hashtag talk to your DM, because maybe he doesn't want you to be an elf. But overall, they've got what they're calling the common races and the less common races. So today we're going to talk about the common races because there's a lot of races. And those are the dwarves, elves, halflings, and humans. So let's talk dwarves.
Arr, yes, let's do it.
Yes, they're always Scottish for some reason.
And pirates.
I don't know
They're
why
always
they
Scottish.
are. Whatever.
They're Scottish pirates.
So
anyway,
we know
Right.
that Benj loves dwarves, so you go ahead and open up with a dwarf because I know they're your thing, buddy.
hey, internet. In case you didn't know, Benj loves dwarves.
I love dwarves because I play a lot of clerics and a lot of martial classes, and the bonuses and abilities that dwarves get lend themselves to martial classes and also religious classes, just because of the dwarf. Dwarves are really into history and tradition, and they love whichever god of the dwarves you got.
Probably the head.
Grey orcs,
Yeah.
depending on which world your game is based in, they're
And again,
they're
this is
really
all- this is
really
all
big fan.
pre-built.
But the big thing is, and with the races, there are also variants within the race. So for dwarves, there are mountain dwarves and hill dwarves, and they get some bonuses universally for being dwarves, and then mountain dwarves get some different bonuses than the hill dwarves. So every dwarf gets +2 to their constitution. Anybody can benefit from more constitution. Constitution determines your hardiness, your resistance to poison, your overall fortitude, your hit points, how hard you are to kill. So constitution is great for everybody. I like not dying, so I like playing a dwarf. They got dark vision, super handy. I love having dark vision because that means I don't need a torch. There's nothing worse than going down into a dungeon with a filthy human who can't see in the dark and giving away your position to everything under there they can see in the dark. Not only do they get their bonus to Constitution, but they also get advantage on saving throws against poison and resistance to poison damage. So if they fail their save, they still take half damage. Dwarves are almost poison proof, realistically. And finally, no matter what class, you get to use dwarven weapons. The classic battle axe, hand axe, hammers, all that good stuff. Stone cunning, so they get bonuses to history checks for stonework because dwarves are the builders of the worlds. They also get proficiency with some tools. So you get a bonus tool proficiency as well. And those proficiencies are kind of a big deal because there's not really another way to get them. If you aren't proficient with full or a language or a skill at character creation, you're likely not going to get it. There are ways to do it within the rules, but it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it's like, 250 days to master a new skill?
For a new skill, proficiency, or language.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be 250 days in a row. Like, you don't have to take a year off so
Right.
I can learn how to speak halfling. But, it takes a lot of time, and you have to find somebody who's willing to take the time to train you. I know how many dungeon masters community college into their world. So, it can be tough. So getting an extra tool proficiency for something like smithing or artisan's tools or something, that's kind of a big deal for dwarves.
And a quick sidebar, if I can, we didn't touch on tool proficiencies in the earlier videos.
Sure.
A lot of those take the place of your craft skill from 3E, which isn't a thing anymore. So instead of having craft armor smithing, you'd have proficiency in armor smithing tools, and then you can use those to make your checks. There's also like thieves' tools and poisoners' kits to pick locks and to make poisons. Just something we didn't touch on before. I thought I'd point out real quick.
Yeah, and the short and curly
Absolutely.
behind those things is that they simply allow you to add your proficiency bonus and whatever corresponding stat goes with that. So you just get more numbers to your roll if you're proficient with them. So
Yep.
it's always a good thing.
Or depending on your dungeon master, it allows you to make the check.
Yeah.
I would
very
be
true.
hard pressed to allow hated, unskilled person to try to make full plate. You end up with literally a plate dangling from like 2 ropes. You look like Bret Hart when Goldberg speared him. You know,
If you don't burn yourself, just putting it all together.
assuming you get to keep your hands and you don't set them on fire. Yes,
Right.
it's kind of a big deal. And then that's dwarves in general. Hill dwarves get a bonus to their wisdom score, +1, and they also get what they call dwarven toughness. They get an extra hit point every level, which, you know what? I love more hit points.
Yep. And that just builds even further upon the dwarves being a hardy, hard-to-kill race.
Yeah. Bonus to Constitution, you're going to get more hit points. Hill dwarf, you're going to get more hit points. It's a snowballing dwarfy effect. I love dwarves. Mountain dwarves, super busted. They get a +2 to their strength. It's an extra stat point over what the hill dwarf gets. And then they also get proficiency with light and medium armor, no matter what, because normally your armor proficiencies come from your class. All mountain dwarves, are proficient with medium armor, which is a big deal.
Right.
Because again, 250 days or a feat. We can talk about it later. So that's dwarves in a nutshell. Like I said, I like martial classes with dwarves because they're hardier. They're supposed to be up there taking the hits. I like religious classes like paladins and clerics with dwarves, especially hill dwarves because they get that bonus to their wisdom score. And you can always use more constitution. Every class can use more constitution, just period. Other thoughts from people who aren't me?
I'll go ahead and go. Like Ben said, that having extra constitution is never a bad thing. There's no class that can say, no, I've got enough hit points. I'm good. The one that comes close is the barbarian, but you still want more hit points because you don't want to go down.
Well, even more, you want constitution because that feeds into your armor class.
Right. And that constitution also pumps up your con save, which is going to keep you from getting hit with a lot of really bad afflictions and debilitating effects. Adding the advantage to resistance to poison is also a really good thing because poison can be pretty bad if you get hit with it and stuck with it for a while, and you can, as a dwarf, instead just shake it off. The mountain dwarf just lends itself to being a fighter's fighter because they get +2 con, +2 strength, and that just gives you a really good springboard for being a great fighter. And the hill dwarf, of course, just pushes you right towards a cleric because you get +2 con, +1 wisdom. And then you also get some bonus proficiencies for some weapons that you normally couldn't use, which is pretty nice because if you're playing, for example, a cleric and you want to play a dwarf, you could take that hand axe if you want to because you can use it now because you're a dwarf and you always get them. They are quite fun to play, not only from a mechanic standpoint, but from a role-playing standpoint. But yeah, Chase?
So that actually rolled in perfectly with me. So I know you guys have been hearing a bunch of numbers being tossed around and stat effects and things like that. If you guys don't know, while Benj here may be the numbers guy, I am definitely the role-playing guy. I love role-playing campaigns. And honestly, I'm not the dwarf guy. I'm not, but running as a DM, running a party of dwarves, or even a party that just has 1, maybe 2 dwarves, is always hilarious because guess what, in D&D you're going to go to a bar, an inn, a tavern, and the dwarf's going to have a good time. He's going to. And from the role-playing aspect of them, they are very fun to play because when the battle happens, most dwarves want to get in there and fight so you can role-play battle. It's great. When you're out of combat, dwarves are typically very clan-based and family-based, so you care about your party members. I don't know many people who hate on the party's dwarf. I just don't see that often. And when you're completely out of it all, in the town, buying stuff, just going around, again, dwarves, fun to role play. You can go into an inn, drink yourself stupid, and with that high con save, you're going to have to drink yourself stupid just to get drunk, in case you didn't know. But, yeah. So from the role playing standpoint, they are very fun. And something that most people may not know, they are medium. By the way, they are on the lower side of medium because there are size categories in D&D still. But so they're not super itty bitty baby tiny. So you do get to fit in with modern society. So that's always a plus.
Well, I know also on the role playing side, you hate the fact that myself and one other player always play mountain dwarves as super racist against hill dwarves.
Always, they always did.
Always do.
Every time.
One small
Filthy,
addendum,
filthy.
a small thing we didn't point out on the mechanic side, their speed is only 25 feet, but that cannot be decreased by wearing heavy armor.
Right.
So you'll never go slower than 25 feet, which is pretty nice when you're playing that fighter wearing full plate.
Yeah, you can literally, okay, magic effects, terrain. Yeah, you can wear the heaviest thing you can buy. Dwarf don't care.
Yeah. Dwarf is just like, nope, I'm good. I can keep walking with this. This is nothing.
This is my extra skin. It's fine.
I mean,
It's
I'm
one of
pretty
those
sure
small-
most dwarves are born in full plate, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so.
DM, that's
It's
your
one of
role
those-
playing
why-
job. Dwarf
It's
is
one of those
But
small
it's so
things
labor intensive.
that doesn't matter until it matters in combat, and you realize I can still run around in full plate, and the other guy can't. All right, I got a small. It might be a small advantage, but it's an advantage.
Yeah.
All right.
But
Now I'm going to get my reach weapon and just back away 25 feet while
Just
that
start
stupid
fighting.
human in full plate
Just
can only go
start
20.
All right. Anything else on the dwarf, or are we?
one more 2 cents. For those who don't know, dwarves have they have a bunch of weapon proficiencies and armor proficiencies and things like that. But they do have the magical weapon known as the Dwarven Warhammer. So when they were discussing reach and really powerful weapons, that's literally a weapon that has its own section just for dwarves. That gives you an idea of how much oomph they have in the world. Like, it's not just a warhammer; it's a Dwarven Warhammer. So,
Well, and that is one thing that I do like about this edition of Dungeons and Dragons. And in third edition they had some, but they've got a lot more in fifth of magical items that are race specific. They talked about in third edition half elves are as good as an elf for the purposes of magic items that require an elf. So half elves could use elven magic items. Well, there was like one. There was like like one longbow that required an elf in the Dungeon Master's Guide. So elf rogue fighter, something that didn't use a bow, you didn't care. Like that was an ability or a bonus that didn't matter. But now they've got at least 3, I think, weapons that are dwarf specific and several that are elf specific and so on and so forth in the Dungeon Master's Guide. So you've got like a dwarven thrower, you've got a dwarven hammer, and I think you've got maybe dwarven plate or something in there. But it's there, but it's more than just there to have it there. If you get what I'm saying,
it's
like,
all legitimate. It all does something that is beneficial.
There's a reason to say, okay, well, I do want to play a dwarf because hopefully my dungeon master will put a dwarven thrower in there, and I'll have Thor's hammer that I can just boomerang back and forth like a crazy person. All right, well then, internet for Chase and Dave. This is Benj, and until next time, keep on rolling.